The first thing you're going to want to do is lock your exposure. The reason that you want to do this is that your phone will kind of automatically adjust the exposure, make the entirety of the video brighter or darker as the light in the scene changes. So if you move by a window and the scene gets brighter, the whole image gets darker. And this leads to what's called exposure shift. Now, the reason you don't want exposure shift and you want a locked exposure is that it simply doesn't look professional. If you look at any professionally recorded video, whether it's cinema or a commercial or just you hire a professional videographer, you will never see exposure shift. So we don't want to do it either. The way you're going to lock your exposure, at least with the iPhone, is to simply long press on the thing you want to take a video of. If you hold your finger on your subject, then you're eventually going to get a small little text on the top that says AEAF lock. What this means is auto exposure, autofocus lock. And if you do this, your exposure will not shift while you're recording, which will make your footage just look a little bit more professional. Once your exposure is locked, the next thing you'll want to do is lower your exposure. What this is going to do, generally speaking, is to tell the camera that the brightest details in the scene are more important than the darkest details. You will lose some detail in some dark shadowed areas, but the trade-off is you'll get much sharper, cleaner footage, more vibrant colors, and overall just a more professional look. If you find that your model's hair or skin is too dark when you do this, then you just figured out exactly when it's time to buy a light or find better light. You want to have more light on your subject than on your background in a case like that. The way you're going to lower your exposure is by simply sliding down the sun that pops up next to the auto exposure lock box. You may have noticed that most phones these days have multiple lenses on them. You're going to want to use all of them. You see, these lenses offer different perspectives on the subject you're recording. You'll find that with the wider lenses, you're going to get a much more dramatic look to what you're doing. Features are going to be stretched. It's going to make small spaces feel vast and huge, to where tighter lenses are going to isolate your subject more. And they're going to allow for things like straighter lines, less distortion, more accurate bodily proportions. Generally speaking, try all the lenses, switch them up. Don't just stick with the standard lens. Even if it means recording the same shot with a few different lenses and then deciding later which one you like the best. Get to know them, cycle through them, and let the different lenses help to paint the picture you're creating with your video. If you go into your phone settings, you'll find that you can change your frame rate between 24, 30, and 60 frames per second. What this means is how many still images are played back or recorded into the video per second. When you're playing the footage back on your phone, you'll find that the more frames per second, the smoother the footage looks. However, Instagram cannot display 60 frames per second, and so anything recorded in 60 FPS and uploaded to Instagram will show no benefit. It won't look any different than recording in 24 or 30. However, when you will see the difference is if you're going to slow your footage down. When you're going to put something in slow motion and you record it in 60 frames per second, it'll look very smooth, to where 24 or 30 might look a little more choppy. Now, the reason you probably don't want to always shoot in 60 frames per second is that the files are much bigger. This can lead to running out of storage on your phone, and it can also lead to glitchier uploads. So generally speaking, if you're playing your footage back at regular speed, just shoot in 24 or 30. If you're planning on playing your footage back in slow motion, shoot in 60 frames per second. You may have noticed while you were investigating your frame rates that you can also select different resolutions. This is 1080 and 4K. If you've ever shopped for a TV, then you probably know that 4K is better. But Instagram cannot display 4K. What Instagram displays is 1080. So this empty cup here, this is Instagram waiting for an upload. This full cup, this is 1080. And the water inside is detail in your video. When you put a 1080 video on Instagram, it's just enough. However, this cup is 4K. It has way more detail than what Instagram can handle. So when you upload a 4K video to Instagram, some of the detail is lost. And in the end, it looks like 1080. Now that doesn't mean that you never want to shoot in 4K. You see, if you get a shot, maybe you want to crop something out, what you're essentially doing then with your footage, and this is 1080, is you're going to crop out some information. Then when you go to put it on Instagram, it doesn't fill up the potential resolution. You're going to see some degraded image quality if you crop into your 1080. However, 4K has so much detail that you can decide to crop some out and still have plenty to fully meet the needs of Instagram. So in a nutshell, if you're not planning on cropping, just shoot in 1080. That's the size of an Instagram video. If you do plan on cropping, shoot it in 4K. And that way, after you cut out some of the detail from the edges of the frame, you still have plenty to give Instagram all that it can handle. Now, you might not want to record in 4K all the time because the files are massive. And just like with the frame rates, this is going to fill up your storage and it can potentially cause glitchy uploads. If you're going to be doing any kind of speaking in your videos, you're absolutely going to want to invest a couple bucks into some audio equipment. The sound of this clip should tell you why. This is just my phone's internal microphone right now. For 30 bucks or less, you can get what's called a lav mic. It's this tiny little microphone. You can get various adapters and things to fit it to whatever your phone is. What this will do is clip onto your shirt, and then you have a mic right next to your mouth. That way, if you walk away or turn around, you can still hear yourself just as well. Granted, this particular microphone is on a cable. I can't go too far from my phone. But for $100 to $200, you can get a wireless device such as this Rode Wireless Go that I enjoy using. And what this does is it goes between your lav mic and your phone, allowing you to walk around wirelessly. As you can tell with this lav mic, you can hear more of my voice and less of the salon around me. Even if I walk around and turn the other way, you just can hear my voice so much better.